Greetings, dear viewers. Hope you are having a wonderful day wherever you are. I already was watching. Quite a few people were gathering both on Twitch and YouTube, anticipating Levy's fourth round in the Spilimbergo Open 2024. I am myself Grandmaster up to Nations. I'm also known as Levy's coach. In the past couple of months, we started to cooperate in May of 2024, and my job is make sure, do my best that Levy gets to the Grandmaster title. Yeah, so far the progress has been pretty good, because in the very first two tournaments when Levy returned to the competitive chess, he managed to rack up a total of about 50 rating points. Even in the very first one in Madrid, he was very close to get the Grandmaster norm. So he didn't yet quite succeed, but this is going to be a long road. And be ready for all kinds of events on the way. And I suppose that's what makes it exciting. So what's it in store for us today? Today we have one game. So it's going to start in exactly 11 minutes. Levy is ready. He has sent me already the video feed. He's playing against... let me enable the video. He's playing against Olivia Jarocka. She's a girl from Poland. So I'm going to tell you a bit about preparation for this game a bit later. Maybe closer when the game is going to start. But the start of the tournament so far for Levy has been a bit bumpy, because he started off the first round with very quick victory, solidly more than 1 hour, beating a local player rated about 2100 in 70 moves. That was really great. But then I think he got a bit unlucky, because he was winning in round 2 against a woman player from Ecuador. Actually, a woman international master. So she's a very good player. He had some winning possibilities. He didn't capitalize on them. And then he had to play a second game of the day. So it was a long game. He was paired against a young talent from India. Not really great pairing, if you ask me, because they're quite unpredictable, and usually they tend to underperform. Meaning not underperform, but their rating is less than their actual strength. So the game ended with a draw. Not really any realistic chances for Levy to play for the win. But most importantly is that in the first days, Levy was suffering because of the jet lag. Yes, of course, I read some of the comments. You know, it was pretty brave for Levy to arrive in Spilimbergo like only 1 day before the start of the tournament, because he arrived in the morning of Thursday, and on Friday evening the games were starting. So that was a major challenge for him, and he was having some sleep issues. So the second day, which was yesterday, when he was playing the double rounds, he was sleeping pretty badly before that. And he told me after the game he was very tired, which is completely understandable. So he had to play in total 9 hours of chess after being sleep deprived. So there's that. And he said that he was quite not ready, that this jet lag is going to kick him so hard. But the good news is that with every single day that he's spending in Italy, he is getting better. He's resting more. And today he slept maybe a total of 8 hours with some interruptions. So he's still getting up during the nights. But he's getting better. He's feeling better. So today it should be easier, and tomorrow even more easier. And then finally he's going to get in the rhythm. Speaking about his norm chances in this tournament, well, they are not really that great at the moment, because he probably needed a very powerful start, simply 3 points out of 3, but it's still possible. And I think it's also fair to say that it's not only about the norms, it's also about the gained rating. At the moment, Levy's losing a couple of points. Doesn't really matter. And he's perfectly ready that on the road to the Grandmaster title, there will be bumps on the road. This is normal because so far the start was way better than we anticipated. The first two tournaments almost get the Grandmaster norm in the very first tournament. And then in the second one, gained another 20 points, almost 50 gained rating points in total. So he has got a dream start. So that's why having some bumps is completely normal. This is what he's experiencing, and he's ready for this. We have talked about this in training sessions. And my advice to him was just to take one game at a time. Actually, he already wanted to prepare for the game yesterday in the evening. He was very exhausted, but Levy's Levy. He said, "Let's do it. Let's look at some lines." And I said, "Listen, just take a breath. Relax." And my philosophy is that the morning always has more wisdom than the evening. Have a good sleep, then we are gonna talk in the morning. Of course, he did. And so now he's feeling better, and we did some pretty extensive prep for the game against Livia Jarocka. All you need to know about her, she's a young girl, age 21, a talented girl. As you can see, she calls the FM title. She comes from Poland, and Polish chess is usually very known for quite serious attitude towards preparation. And if I would have to name a country in the past years that has really boomed in chess, so to speak. I mean, okay, obviously everybody wants to name India worldwide, but Poland is also a country that is becoming huge power in chess. And compared to what Poland had like 20 years ago, now they have a lot of Grandmasters. And these Grandmasters, they're assigned to the young talent. And we prepared for this game, Karkan. So Livia plays mainly e4. She has been trying to incorporate some d4 continuations in her repertoire. But we suspect that it's going to be e4 because Levy is much more predictable. And when we were preparing against Livia, I was paying a lot of attention what she might prepare against Levy. So it's like I was preparing against Levy like how I would treat Levy's openings if I was Livia or her coach. And actually, we don't know who is coaching Livia. I suspect it's one of the Grandmasters. There's two Polish Grandmasters in Spilimbergo, Marcin Tasbir, Oskar Wieczorek, also maybe one of the international masters might be helping Livia. I don't know. But I checked them all. I check all of their repertoires, what they're playing, what they might recommend to Livia if one of them is coaching. I don't know. Maybe this is not the case. Maybe she's just playing there for fun. But I don't think so. I think somebody's coaching her. So I checked the repertoires. And most of them, I mean, not most of them, all of them play e4. So I figured that probably they won't recommend Livia to play d4 because they're not d4 players. So we are going to see e4. And also the fact that Levy is quite predictable with the Caro-Kann, I think this is going to happen. Now, after that, it gets more tricky. Because after the Caro-Kann, I try to guess which continuation Levy is going to take. And essentially, I came up with three scenarios, which is the biggest likelihood. My best guess is we're going to see the Duon's Caro-Kann. This is something that Lydia doesn't play as her main continuation. But I think this is going to happen. There's also a pretty fair chance that Livia is going to play the two knights Caro-Kann. meaning e4, c6, either knight f3 or knight c3 first, e4, c6, knight c3, d5, knight f3. Levy's ready for that as well. There you go, there she arrives at the board. She's all smiles. I imagine also Olivia is pretty happy about the prospects playing in front of a huge audience. Levy's very serious. So anything else, I rated less than 10% probability that Livia is going to choose something else like d4 or maybe the Reti or English opening. And during the prep, I was only focusing on the classical games. So I threw out all the Blitz and Rapid and only focused on the classical games. And this revealed quite a bit of information about Livia's playing style. I think, I might be wrong, I think she's quite a dynamic player. She likes to take charge, aggressively push forward, but her repertoire is quite solid. She likes to fight with the center, she likes space advantage. So basically, she's playing correct chess. And she has an inspired touch. What I told Levy is that this is good news to you, because she's not going to play dry. She's going to probably look for some complications. And I told Levy not to overthink, not to think too much how you're going to beat with black your opponent. I basically thought, just play your game. Don't think about too much about the GM norms or what's going to happen tomorrow or after that. Every single game, one at a time. Just play like a training game. Enjoy it. And the opportunities, they're going to present themselves. I'm positive. Because this is what happened in the game versus Anai in the second round. Levy was worse after the opening. He mixed up something. But then he got very good chances. The opponent got in time scramble. So that was my advice. Levy, don't worry. Don't think about the color of the game that you are playing with black. You are the better player. So that was the pre-game talk. That's the best we could do. And Levy has prepped the Caro pretty deeply. Okay, maybe there's a possibility that Levy is going to play d4. I do not think so. There's always a backup plan. But we are going to see. And by the way, the games are about to start. We are 1 minute over the start of the official round. There was a big yawn for Olivia. I suppose she was prepping for this game pretty seriously. Because there's one thing I noticed in her opening prep. She prepares specifically for every single opponent. She plays sometimes random systems. I think this is because she is looking at her opponent's prep and selecting something. So she's a very serious player. And lately she has beaten quite a lot of very good players. So she is currently at her peak, so to speak. So it's yet another challenge to Levy. I have a good feeling it's going to end well. So the players are getting ready for the start of the game. My money is on e4. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. Then I expect the advanced Caracan. Might be also the 2 knights Caracan. Might be wrong. The preparation only takes you this far. Also, you have to take into account the opponent also prepares something. There's a lot of reverse psychology. You prepare against what your opponent might prepare against you, what he might prepare against you, etc. And it gets really tough at the highest level tournaments when, for example, there's a clap of something, somebody's congratulated. I don't know what's happening there. Maybe somebody has a birthday. By the way, sometimes this happens. Everybody's like, yay, congratulations. And then everybody starts the game. I don't know. But in even high-level tournaments like Walsh's Olympiad, the prep is insane. Maybe I could talk about some of those most insane preps. I'm not even talking about the World Championship level. So this is still the mortal level. But Levy spent the entire morning prepping for the game. And Kifi is rested. He also blames me for this eSIM. I suggested him the eSIM for the second round video. Now I owe him a beer. And he's back of using the playing venue's Wi-Fi, which sometimes is lagging a bit, but at least it's stable. It never has failed. All right. Yes, you can see Levy is nervous. She's staring at the camera. This is Levy's one of the greatest advantages. Use the audience against the opponents. Yeah, there's a bit delay. I see. Aha, just a second. I just saw a stare. Just a second. I saw Marcin Tasbir staring at Olivia. I think it basically could confirm that he's coaching Olivia. I kind of knew that. Because I think the guy in the blue shirt, to the right, I recognize him. And he was looking back to Olivia. Olivia was smiling. I think that's Marcin Tasbir. I might be terribly wrong. I think he is his coach. Her coach. I knew that. So I already prepared everything from Marcin's games that he might use. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Could be. Maybe they're just friends. You never know. All right. So, what's about the delay? It's not yet starting. Waiting. So, if I didn't say hello to everybody once again, hello. We are streaming on 3 channels at the same time. It's Levy's, obviously, Twitch and YouTube. You're being officially amazing for following Levy's adventures. Also, I'm streaming on my own Twitch channel. But it's exactly the same content. Also, I would like to say hello to all of my viewers. I've been neglecting them a bit. Because I'm following only Levy's Twitch and YouTube chats. So from time to time, I'm going to select some questions that you're interested about. And we are going to have some fun. By the way, the game's going to be a long one. 90 minutes for the entire game. This is not blitz, no rapid. 30-second increment. Guys, I mean, this is going to be about 4-hour game. I mean, get ready. There's not going to be a lot of moves, maybe at the very beginning, perhaps. But later on, the pace is going to slow down. And typically I say that in a classical tournament, the average speed per move is 3 minutes. That's what you can expect. Okay, now it's already quite a bit delay. I mean, 7 minutes. The game has not yet started. What's the holdup? Weird. Weird. I would already like to select some questions, but I'm very curious how this game is going to start out. I think that Livia plays e4. Levy knows that Livia is going to play e4. Livia knows that Levy is going to play the Caracan. Levy knows that Livia knows that Levy knows that Livia knows. By the way, I'm not really sure what was the reason but this game was not the game, but the entire round was postponed for half an hour because the game was originally slated to start. Again, a clap. I mean, come on, guys, start a game already. There's some, maybe there's a tournament that has finished, some award ceremony or something. I'm not sure. Yeah, you know, I can tell you definitely from the player's perspective, there's nothing more annoying than listening to some officials saying opening speeches. Everybody's sitting at the tables, and you want to start a game, and then comes the mayor of the city, vice president of the federation, some VIP guest flew in from Geneva or something, and they say very important speeches. I mean, okay, I mean, that's really nice, but the players are just waiting and waiting and waiting. Sometimes these speeches happen at the start of the tournament, not always. Sometimes they're well within already the tournament, like round 3 or 4. Whatever. Just a second. Yeah, I can only assume there's some award ceremony or some big speeches. One thing that Levy mentioned in one of his recaps, that it's pretty hot in Italy. Yesterday it was like plus 30 degrees Celsius. Again, a clap. Clap, 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 clap. And they're playing in a huge sports hall. I think it's a sports hall with 500 people. So if it's very hot outside and you have 500 people in the same room, it can be challenging for the players. But I usually say everybody has the same conditions. So nothing to complain about. If it's hot for you, it's hot for the opponent as well. And 10 minutes in, we still don't have the start of the round. Yeah, I mean, basically you can read everything in Olivia's face. She's also anxiously waiting for the game finally to start. She wants to show her prep. All right, let me see what the chat is saying. I just can't wait for the start. Is Levy in good spirits after the last games? Yes, he is. She beat Levy once in the other Tuesday. I couldn't confirm this information. I don't know that. Even if it happened, it doesn't matter. Another clap? I mean, oh my good guys, I mean, what is happening there? Are you clapping all the time? No, it's definitely some award ceremony. Some side tournament has finished. Do, 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 do. Let me select another question. I mean, you guys at the chat, you're amazing. Yeah, maybe about there was a question, of course it always comes back, how realistic are Levy's chances for the GM norm? He doesn't think about it just yet. One game at a time. Maybe with the current pace, if Levy starts to win a lot of games, he needs at least 7 points. But again, I think it's not very healthy to think too much forward. Just one game at a time. And finally start the game and what they're doing there. I mean, Levy's also pretty bored. I feel you, man. I mean, those opening speeches and everything. But okay. How come she can be FM when she's at her peak? There's a question on Twitch. Well, okay, I didn't really, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned the rating peak, but she's a young player, constantly getting better and better. Recently, she beat very strong players. And I suppose because of her achievement, she got FM title. But don't quote me on this. I don't know where she got it. Normally, the requirement is indeed 2300 rating. I don't think she ever had it. Could be for some achievement, like winning some youth event or something. Whatever. Oh, finally. All right. Olivia, play E4. We know you are going to do it. Yep. You got it. E4 is on the board. Okay, Levy is not gonna knock surprise, so Karaka and both of them know that this is gonna happen. E4, C6, D4. So far, so good. D5 most likely. Not yet once, Caro. We know you're gonna play it. I told you. I told you. This is not a surprise. Levy, try surprise, Levy. So our prep worked so far. We expected this. And now, bishop f5, c5. Wait. Okay, this is get really interesting. Because I thought that Levy's gonna play bishop f5. And we are discussing two of these combinations. Here, a move back, a bishop f5, or the second move was c5. And we are speculating that Livia is going to play h4 to repeat the game that Levy played in New York IM Norm Tournament against Maxim Novik, because Levy got a bad position, and also some other games gave me the impression that this is what Levy is going to do. So it didn't happen. But anyway, the other choice was c5. And my impression was that Levy's going to play bishop f5. But he was reviewing all the files. This morning, he was expecting e5 because I said there's 60% chance she's going to play e5. Everything else for 30%. And some random stuff, 10%. I said this is the biggest chance. So Levy is still within the prep. And we noticed, okay, these are the moves. We noticed that Livia is a Caro player herself. And she was trying to hide it because she's been playing a lot of Sicilian defense and some French defense in Tata Tuesdays. But when I deleted all of those Blitz games, I realized that she's also a Karkan player herself. So we knew that. And when I was looking at her games, I noticed she doesn't quite play c5 herself. So this is my a suggestion to Levy. Maybe you want to play c5. Because she doesn't play it herself mainly. She's played like twice. She mainly plays bishop 5. So the logic here is that it made sense to play something that she doesn't have experience herself with the black color. Second thing, Levy has a very good score with the c5 push. But Levy's own counter argument was that it's not really that difficult for white to prep for this. And I thought we stayed at this. But apparently Levy has changed his mind. And he did play for this line. Bishop g4, d takes on c5, and knight c6. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised, but okay, this was one of the alternatives. And I just didn't know that Levy last minute decided to not to go for bishop f5 but c5. Not the first time. So all that matters is that he decided at the last minute to play c5. He's happy with this. All right. Now maybe let me go back a couple of moves and try to explain why c5. So bishop f5, this is the main continuation nowadays, because black wants to play e6 and c5 to get some sort of a French defense. So by French defense, I'm meaning e4, e6, d4, d5, let's say advanced variation e5 and c5. This is the advanced variation of the French defense. And black plays knight c6, black plays queen b6, and bishop d7, and etc, etc, etc. But the problem is the Lascaux bishop. Black is always slightly worse. So the idea of the advanced Caro-Kann, I mean, white tries to gain space. Black wants to bring out the bishop on f5. And then play e6, c5. So that's the idea. There's a number of ways how white can meet with this. White can play h4. This is what we expected from Levy. White could play aggressive knight c3, g4. White could play positionally like knight f3, bishop e2. There's many systems. We can't know for sure what Levy had prepared. But the idea of c5 is that this continuation always has been a side weapon. And Levy last played it, if I'm not terribly mistaken, in the Madrid tournament round number 8 against the guy. He was having a much better position, and if he had won, he could have got the GM norm. So maybe this contributed to the choice of the line that Levy wants to make this line work. And if I'm not terribly mistaken, so last couple of moves, this is the position, by the way, a bishop e3, we are going to get there in a moment. So prior to these games, I think Levy mainly was playing c3. And then the games would continue something like knight c6, knight f3, I really don't remember, I think it was something like c takes, bishop, somewhere, e6. White is okay, but also black has no issues. This we know. And but I didn't really pay too much attention to this, and because I was expecting that Levy's going to play a bishop f5. So white plays knight f3, developing pieces. Knight c6. I'm sorry, no, bishop g4 makes perfect sense, pinning the knight. And black temporarily sacrifices the pawn. So the big idea is that white plays d takes 1 c5. And it's all about the fight for the d4 square. I mean, white didn't really have to do that. White could have played like a bishop e2 or c3 or bishop e3 or whatever. But with d takes on c5, white takes the pawn on c5, but the big idea is to control the d4 square. So for example, if you play queen a5, white wants to play something like c3. Let's say you take on c5. White wants to play bishop e3. White wants to play knight e2. So eventually, maybe you get to this position, and white is a very happy person. Because white has a beautiful control of the center, control the d4 square, and in some lines, the pawn on e5 can be sacrificed. So, knight c6. Levy ignores the pawn for the time being. And this c3 actually is a very cute trap, because you cannot really play knight e5. This is basic stuff. Knight e5, bishop d1, bishop b5. Arrivederci, as they say, or actually in Polish, this would be... Actually, I don't know how it would be in Polish. I have to check. So you could attack the pawn on e5 because black is down the material. e6. Now, this I think is already a threat. Maybe not actually, I'm not entirely sure. And one of the ideas of the c3 move is sometimes enable the b4 idea, protect the pawn on c5, also stop queen a5. So e6, Levy wants to take on c5. Levy plays bishop e3, protecting this pulse of war. Again, I suppose this is not yet working. Not quite because of knight e5. Take it. Now this gives nothing because there's king e7, thanks to the pawn on e6. But I suspect there's a different problem, like queen a4 check. And there's no answer, because if you remove the knight, you drop the bishop. If you play queen d7, that's bishop b5. It just hurts, like queen g4, whatever. It just looks very bad. So Levy plays a6, and the idea is to stop bishop b5. So all you need to know is that this is prep. Levy knows this. Black is temporarily sacrificing a pawn. And I think it's fair to say that Olivia most likely is out of the book. Okay, maybe not very certain yet because she has spent like 5 minutes. So if she's gonna spend like next 5-10 minutes pondering about the choice, we can be sure she didn't expect this line. Because again, she did expect, she knows that Levy is a Caro player. Everybody knows this. And actually this was my advice to Levy, because he was asking before the tournament, before the round, he was asking about the different opening. And he said, how about we surprise Livia by playing this random opening to throw her off the prep and then work it out. And my advice was that don't do that. Play your openings, trust your Caro. You live and breathe Caro. You're the greatest expert. And don't be afraid what she's going to play against you. Just prepare something deeper. So this is what we did. But only to my surprise is that he played c5, not bishop f5. So it's a surprise to me. Apparently, a last minute change of thoughts. And yeah, now I think Livia needs to figure out how to continue development, because she has a lot of questions. Does she protect those pawns or does she not? Does she continue development and give up one of those pawns? There's many ways to play. Like knight e2, bishop e2, give up the pawn on e5 in some lines. You try to hold on to those pawns by b4, bishop d4. Maybe you play something more aggressive as queen b3, which, to be honest, quite doesn't make any sense. But okay, the idea is to meet bishop f3 with queen b7. But those are very concrete lines. And if you're quite not sure about this, if you haven't checked it, like in the past years or so, it's very scary. Of course, the engine slightly prefers white, but the game is very sharp. All right. Levy looks very confident. And Livia is not so sure. So at the moment, the first moves have been success to Levy. All right, let's see what you're writing there on the chat. Levy say he likes to play Siva versus weaker player. Huger suggests. No, I don't think so. He has the greatest respect for Livia. But he didn't apparently quite want to play bishop f5. Last minute change of thoughts. And we have been discussing that after this tournament, we will probably incorporate another defense for Levy in his repertoire. Because the problem is that Levy's a bit predictable. Although he knows the Caro really well, I mean, he is at minor disadvantage. We're going to work on that. We just can't do everything at the same time. We're trying, but it's a long road. Every single game is a lesson to be learned. And yeah, I see somebody already corrected me. Not Olivia, but Olivia. Yes, I know. Sometimes I unconsciously say Olivia. Yes, I know her name is Olivia. I know. It just sounds very similar. My apologies. No disrespect meant for Olivia. It sounds Olivia, but yeah, maybe it sounds like Olivia. Lovely name. All right. Let me see what else is there. Knight b to d2 was just played. This enables already knight e5. So Olivia is ready to part ways of the pawn. The point is, knight e5, after queen a4 check, you can just play queen d7. You see, there's no bishop b5. That's why a6 is important. The bishop on g4 is still protected. There's no knight e5 because the queen on a4 is under attack. So queen d7, knight d7 block is okay. The bottom c5, by the way, is under attack, so this was a very unbalanced game. So knight e5 doesn't work because this is just ridiculous. And there's no bishop b5 check because, again, makes no sense. So Levy's trying to recall what was the continuation. I think he got to take on e5 here. So knight e5, there's no queen a4 check. No knight e5, so bishop e2. And then you work it out. Maybe even just retreat with the knight. Knight c6, show castle. Queen c7, knight f6, bishop e7. White is going to play b4, a4, b5. Quite unbalanced game. Levy's thinking, trying to recall the prep. Yeah, hello to all the Latvians. every single round. Somebody from Latvia or Latvia is in Toronto. Say hello, hello. What are we doing? 95 is on the board. We just saw it. The question is how far Livia knows this. Levy seems to be pretty confident. Yeah, by the way, did I not mention? My apologies at the very beginning. I thought I did. It seems that until the end of the tournament, the 10-minute delay is gonna stay. There's nothing I can do about it. This is due to the fair play reasons, so that somebody in the playing venue doesn't have the funny idea. I don't know, let's say the arbiter is watching the broadcast, which, to be honest, would be pretty ridiculous. And he walks past the arbiter's desk and he sees the broadcast, or even worse, the evaluation bar, or even worse, the analysis. So for this reason, there's a 10-minute delay for all the games broadcasted. I am not a big fan of these delays, but I completely understand them. To be honest, I don't think it really is gonna matter to somebody who would like to use illegal assistance. 10 minutes is not gonna stop him, but okay, whatever. So it's a fair play attempt, fine, so be it. By the way, Bishop E2 was just played by Livia, threatening to take the knight on E5. I think the knight has to go back to slightly shelter this long diagonal. Levy slightly underdeveloped. All right. Yeah, the first moves got been played pretty quickly. Yeah. I see the chat is very heated today. Just chill. What's up with all the heated discussions? Better, you know, what you could do is you could ask some questions about something like what it's been in the road to GM training sessions, what we did in the morning, what Levy had for breakfast, stuff like that. Okay, I'm not sure I could answer all the questions, but I'll try. Knight c6, he goes back. Yeah. Now I think the game is less forced, so short castle makes the most sense. This is what I would say to Levy. This is the most universal move. b4 is also a move, but I think if I was white, I would just play shoot castle like in 5 seconds. Make sure I don't blunder the pawn on c5. Yeah. Okay, here we go again. Yeah, this question basically arrives every single broadcast. How long do you think Levy it's gonna take to Levy to get the GM title? Couple of years at best. I don't think it's gonna happen in half a year. I don't think it's gonna happen in a year. 2, 3 years. Probably 3 would be more or less optimal. 2, ideal. Everything faster is quite unlikely. Queen a4. Queen a4. That doesn't look very scary. Wait a second. Okay, so what Livia is trying to do here is to immediately kill the game. Like, she wants to take on g4, play knight e5, and punish black. I don't think this is possible here. So how about Levy's gonna play just knight f6? And maybe Livia's idea is to play knight e5. With the idea, the top the bishop takes on e2. She has planned the intermezzo move knight c6. With the idea, the top the b takes on c6, queen takes on c6. You see, that's what we call intermezzo check. And then she collects the pawn on e2, and she's pretty happy. But let me tell you this. I think there's some flaws in the plan. Because after bishop e2, knight c6, I'm seeing move queen d7. And then collect on c6 with a pawn. Black is just fine, the king on e2 is weird. Second idea I'm seeing is that after knight c6 there might be defensive bishop e5. And black is again just fine. If you take on d8, okay, probably this requires some calculation. Knight b7, rook b8, hit the knight, hit the pawn. Perhaps knight e6, takes, rook b2. Black is okay. So queen a4, I don't think Levy should be concerned, because if there's no knight e5, then there's nothing to be afraid of. And if there's no knight e5, why would you play queen a4? So let's say if white plays castle, then this is a waste of time. Because one of the big ideas for white is to play short castle, play b4, and play a4 in some lines. White wants to gain space, so something like a short castle, and not sure, maybe knight e4, bishop e2, queen e2, and think about the big idea to play b5. But it's not so clear. Okay, I see the engine, of course, still slightly prefers white, but black is healthy. Black has no weaknesses. So Levy has done nothing wrong, even if Livia would play it ideally. But queen a4, I'm gonna assign to this the following. Oh wait, wait, there it is. There you go. I'm gonna give it this sign, because if knight e5 is not a threat, then she's wasting time. This is good. This is good for Levy. I also don't think that Levy has any other choice. Okay, maybe he's going to play bishop f3, but this is not such a difficult line. Knight e5, knight f6, knight e5, bishop e2, knight c6, and queen d7. Very easy line. Goddess on YouTube is saying, before Levy quit tournament play a few years ago, that Levy's biggest issue is not his skill of how much he would get into his own head. You're glad his coach has helped him keep his head. Yes, I can confirm. It's still Levy's head. But, okay, jokes aside, we have worked together with Levy on the mental aspect quite a bit. And this is also the biggest challenge for me. Finding the right words to say. Not easy. So it seems that some things I'm doing, they're correct. So looks good, okay. Looks great so far. Maybe we could at some point talk about what are those psychological lessons all about. Nothing really advanced, to be honest. Just talks about thinking positive, not overthinking. All right, let me select another question. No. Okay. Mitchell Myers is asking, what kind of advice did I give Levy to win more games? Knight of 6, by the way, is played. So, you know, my best advice I could ever give to any student, including Levy, is just play better. Have you thought about that? Just play better moves. That's it. That's the secret. You're probably not going to be satisfied with the answer. Okay, it's probably more advanced than that, but there's so many things to talk about in training sessions. So we talk about psychology. We talk about some differences between IMs and GMs. We still need to work quite a bit on some bigger topics like calculation. We still need to work quite a bit on a lot of pawn structures. We still need to work a bit not only on theoretical prep, but everything that arises from those positions. There's a lot of work. And I think you should check it out yourself because Levy's Patreon has all of the lessons. How many of you are there, by the way? What kind of star you have chosen? Because I think one of them, was it the Grandmaster title? Levy was scanning out his score sheets, which I think is a pretty cool thing for the biggest fans. Also, I think he posts some footages, video logs, etc. Anyway, I mean, overall, I think that we're living in a very privileged time. There's so much content available on YouTube, on Patreon, on Twitch. None of this was there 20 years ago. So I would probably not be very far off to say that this is the golden age of chess at the moment. So we're living the moment. And the Levy's road to Grandmaster is not only about his Grandmaster title, it's about inspiring people to accomplish their dreams. So for Levy, it's not only the content. Okay, of course it's content for Levy. This is important to him. Is 10-minute delay only for the board or everything? Everything. I'm seeing the boards live. I'm seeing the video live. It's synchronized, but the stream is delayed. But you can just ignore it. for you, it's not going to matter. The only thing what makes it a bit more challenging is how I'm engaging with you, your questions. Because if you write me something, I'm going to see it after 10 minutes. If I respond to your questions after 10 minutes, we're already talking about a different topic. That's the challenge. But again, due to the fair play reasons, there's nothing we can do about it. So it is what it is. Michelle Camparada is asking, how often do you think it's that someone that could become a world champion, very strong player, never discovers chess? Or discovers it too late and never plays professionally? Are you talking about alternate life? I mean, okay, I'm not going to deny that some players are more gifted than the others. Although you know, Garry Kasparov, one of the greatest players in the history of chess, he has said it multiple times. The greatest talent in chess is the ability to work hard. That's it. I mean, okay, maybe for some players, they are more gifted, like they might have the so-called photographic memory. Like you look at something, you remember it immediately. But for most people, that's not the case. And pretty much all of the top players in the world, they're hard workers. Those times when you could be a world champion or like even a contender by pure talent, they're gone. Okay, maybe in the past that was the case. Not anymore. So you need talent, and you need a lot of work. You need a lot of finances. And even then, there's no guarantees. That hard it is today. I think right now Olivia realizes that knight e5 leads nowhere. So this queen a4 was an impulsive move. She sees. Now, after knight e5, bishop e2, knight c6, she sees queen d7. Yes. Now the question is what she's going to do. Because if she plays queen a4 and she can't play knight e5, now what? Because then again, this queen a4 makes no sense. And she might do something just out of stubbornness because she played queen a4. And again, it just stands in the way of those pawn pushes. The queen on a4 has nothing to do. Maybe she's going to put the queen on f4 just because she played queen a4. And try to resume the idea to play a4, b4. But what's the queen doing on f4? I quite do not understand. Maybe queen f4, queen g3. And then play b4, a4. But again, you need a castle at some point. So she should spend here at least 10 minutes. Nothing less. h3 is going to be bishop h5 most likely. Because, for example, you go here, a knight e5. Okay, it looks interesting. But the question is, where does your king go? This is dangerous. This is dangerous. Perfect moment to burn a lot of time. Spot D is asking on Twitch, are the opponents allowed to talk to each other during the game? If not, why not? Technically, no. Actually, it's very tricky subject. Because that's a rule that everybody's breaking all the time. So even at the highest level, there's a strict rule. No discussions in the playing menu. I mean, this was actually pretty funny how in the French Team Chess Championships, where I was playing this June in France, arbiters every round are saying, No talking in the halls outside the playing venue. Do not talk in the halls outside the playing venue. If you want to analyze, go upstairs. Do you think somebody listened to this recommendation? Everyone was just talking in the halls. So the idea why this was recommended, not like recommended, actually that was a requirement, so that somebody who is passing to the toilet, because the toilets were in those halls, so that they wouldn't listen to some conversation. That's it. The same applies for not talking in the playing venue. So you cannot talk to each other. It's like, imagine this. There's two friends playing in the tournament. They're not playing against each other. They're playing against separate opponents. They're not allowed to talk in the playing venue to each other. And yet so many people talk. Of course, not about the games. It's like chit-chat, etc. So this is a rule that is broken all the time. Not because of ill meaning, but I mean, sometimes people just like to socialize. Because also from the perspective of the players, playing in open tournaments is a celebration. Yeah, by the way, H3 is played by Livia. Every single tournament is gathering. You meet friends. You meet colleagues that you haven't seen for a long time. You want to say hello. You want to talk about what you had for the breakfast. You want to talk about some other players. Not necessarily about the position. Because there's so many players amongst each other who are very good friends at any level. So, okay, you could argue they could talk about it after the game. I agree. They could, but many people don't. But normally it is quiet in the playing venue. But this occasional small talk between some players, it does happen from time to time. As for me, I try not to talk ever, so that nobody has some funny ideas that, you know, I'm passing some information about my opponent. Whatever. All right. Fabian is asking, not asking, but suggesting on a YouTube channel, maybe Levy needs a psychologist too. It is possible. I suppose he's gonna see. I'm not a professional psychologist. So, Levy has thought about it. For the moment, he's good. So, in case he is not gonna handle some of the stress, there are ideas to explore. All right, now the question is, should Levy take on f3? I don't want to give this bishop just like that. So my gut instinct says play bishop h5 without thinking. g4, bishop g6, and knight e5. Okay, what is this position? It can get really sharp very quickly. Like, I could play queen c8. Okay, maybe queen c8 allows white to play h4, h5. By the way, this is a typical problem in this candy. So you want to play h5, trap the bishop. And then after h5, knight g6. This is a permanent weakness. Like queen c2, bishop d3. Oi, oi, oi. What's happening with pawn on g6? So that's a problem. But what did I say about the game potentially becoming pretty sharp? There could be room for some inspired stuff like knight e7. You sacrifice the pawn on c6. queen c6. Then you play something like rook c8, queen a6, and bishop c5. So, and then you're looking at this position like, yeah, but what's so special about it? You know, I mean, white is up a pawn. 2 passed pawns on the queen side. I'm not going to argue, but my counter argument would be, what about your king's safety? Because I'm going to castle short. What are you going to do? These are not optimal pieces. Black can even play h5 at some point to open up the h file. So, I think this is pretty interesting idea. Like bishop h5, g4, bishop g6, knight e5, and knight e7. If you would ask me, where do I know this from? I have no idea. I think I have seen this somewhere. I'm not using engines, by the way. I don't even know what engine says. All I see is that bar confirms basically my suspicion that this might be a move. I might have seen this idea to sacrifice the pawn on c6. But the question is this so obvious for Levy? I don't know. Is this funny business in a good position? Depends. So it looks very tempting. Okay, maybe queen c7 is also a move, hitting the knight. Bishop f4 is a move. Now white is threading some discovered attacks. So actually it can get... Can I take on c5 here? Oh, probably not. I was looking for some craziness, but okay, this is just too much. Yeah. Maybe now, no, 97 again is knight g6. Actually, I'm surprised why the bar says that this is playable. Quite don't get it. Maybe the bishop move, bishop e4 somewhere. Again, wrong. Okay, I mean, this is definitely a move, but bishop h5, because if after bishop f3, knight f3, I think Levy just gets instantly an okay position. Maybe now play knight e7, or maybe play, actually, how about knight e4? Hit the pawn, and after b4 you drop the pawn. By the way, this is a pretty obvious idea. Wait, so you take on f3, and then you play knight e4. How about that? Looks very easy. And there's no easy way to protect the pawn. Queen h3 just jumps under a pin. Just makes no sense. b4, you just take the pawn on c3. Okay, maybe after bishop f3, white takes with the bishop. But this is hardly optimal for white. There could be knight e7. After b4, there could be moves like maybe g6, short castle, bishop g7, rook c1, short castle. What is this position? I have no idea. It looks fun. c4 is always d4. This is a moment where Levy needs to think. Invest here 10-15 minutes, no less. It's a big decision. So take on f3 and try to attack the pawn on c5 makes sense. Or enter the complications with knight e5. Maybe again here there's a couple of moves like, how about some queen a5? Maybe actually queen c7, a bishop f4, and queen a5 now. Yeah, the angel is laughing at me as usual. Probably again h4 is going to be a big threat. Bishop c5 jumps under the fork. So here, 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 here. Somehow I'm locked on this knight e7, but there could be another move. I'm not exactly sure. And Levy already played bishop f3. All right. Bishop f3, bishop f3. So I think we're heading to something like this. This is nice and simple chess so far from Levy. All right, listen, I'm going to make a very, very short break. Be back in a minute or 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Action is only heating up. All right. I'm back. What did I miss? Levy hasn't yet made a move. So 97. Is this a move? Or Levy should just play bishop e7. Bishop e7, castles, castles. I suppose something like b4. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, the big question is what's going to be the follow-up from here. This knight is not moving, bishop is not moving, queen c7 makes no sense. I suppose again 97. Just a second. So if you play knight e7 right away, hit a pawn, b4. Again, I was looking at this g6 idea. For some reason, I like it. Maybe instead you can play bishop e7. I'm not exactly sure. Castles, you go here, hit the pawn. Rook c1. Here. Probably rook d1. I mean, I was looking at this idea in some lines. Knight e5, bishop e2, and d4. But I suppose it doesn't work. Takes, takes. Takes, takes, and there's at least knight f3. And white is definitely better because the bishop is going to get here on f3. And white has advanced pawns to the queen side. And also there could be just some problems with some knight b3 or knight f3, pinning the pawn. There's also that. So actually, I was wishing that Levy can't play bishop h5. Bishop h5, g4, bishop g6, knight e5, and knight e7. But okay, I mean, white could play knight f3. Maybe. And then you have ideas like knight c5 takes, and knight c6 doesn't work, queen d7 is knight e5. The same idea doesn't work anymore. But again, I mean, the game is very complex. There's no guarantees that white would just take on c6. Actually, Bar prefers white for some reason. I don't know. Maybe not because of knight c6. Because suddenly there's a lot of dynamics. Difficult to tell. Okay, so Levy already has played bishop e7 and short castle for white. So what happens after the short castle? Or do you play short castle? I suppose you do. So rook d1 most likely to control this file. Maybe knight c4, knight b6 ideas. How about knight e5? Bishop e2. Queen c7, b4, and knight g6. I'm not exactly sure the black has any attack at the king side. I kind of wanted to make it work, but knight f4, bishop f1. Castle, castle, by the way, is played. So I think rook d1 is going to happen. Maybe b4. Maybe queen c2 is a move. Okay, let's say white plays b4. To protect the pawn, with the idea to play queen b3, a4, b5. Maybe the idea is to play f5, f4. Now that I'm thinking about this, go here. And let's say after queen b3, play f5. Let's say a4, f4, bishop d4. This is so weird. Bishop f6. Take it. Queen f6. Rook d8, knight e5, g5, g4. I don't know. I don't know. How about taking the center with e5? Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of, that those pawns are going to get a bit loose. You need a let's go bishop. So maybe queen b3, e4, here, knight e5. Again, I quite don't like it. I mean, this pawn on d5 now doesn't have any support. I don't understand what you gain from the pawn on e4. So knight, okay, let's say again, b4. I suppose you improve the knight, queen b3. Maybe knight e5, bishop e2. Maybe now f5. Probably ridiculous again. I am not sure I even understand this position. Tell you honestly. Could be that d4 is a move here, but there's no chance that white is going to get worse in those positions. Maybe there's some provocative bishop g5. Trade up the bishop. f4. Bishop h6. g4. What is this? How do you stop g5? And f takes on e5. Some d4 stuff? Doesn't feel under control, to be honest. But Levy could be looking at lines like these. Like, trade at the bishop. Let's say b4, knight e7. Or maybe even, let's say, rook d1, knight e7, hit the pawn, b4, and bishop g5. Because white has the bishop pair. I suppose you want to trade off your opponent's strongest pieces. So bishop g5 looks very logical. The more I look at this. You also want to ruin your opponent's pawn structure. So let's say take it. Some sort of queen b3 again, I suppose. Maybe now play knight e5. Very unclear. Rook d1, by the way, is played. You know, I was looking at this position. I see nothing better than bishop g5. There's definitely more. I try to make d4 work. Doesn't work. It opens up the position too much. I try to play e5. It loosens up the pawn on d5. I try to get to the pawn. It plays b4. I try to activate the bishop. I run out of the plan. So the best I can come up with is to trade the bishops. So that white doesn't have the two bishop advantage. And then see what happens. Do I notice a big difference between my chat when I stream and Levy's? Yeah. I think the difference is something like 15,000 people more on Levy's channel at the same time. Small difference. I have a very small channel on Twitch. I have started to develop the YouTube channel. By the way, I wanted to mention at least once, I'm not going to overdo it, but after the games, I'm doing recaps of Levy's rounds. I started a new playlist. I call it Coach's Insights. And basically, it's a shortened version of what I think about what Levy did and what he could have done. So I think there's going to be more videos like these. Obviously, I'm a very small-time YouTuber or Twitch streamer compared to Levy. I'm mainly focusing on commentaries and creating chessable courses. And now coaching Levy is one of my priorities. All right, let's see. What will be the biggest roadblock to Levy? Is it harder to get the norms or the rating? We'll see. You know, I kind of suggested to Levy, but all of us were different. I believe the first norm is the most difficult one. Why? Because you don't know. Are you a GM material or not? I mean, I'm telling this from my perspective. When I was going for the GM norm, for the GM title. And I believe every player can probably relate to this. Those of the players who have been hunting the Grandmaster title. You're just not sure. Okay, I mean, you believe it, you work very hard, but you don't know. Because there's so many players who don't become Grandmasters. They just can't. And that's why you never know for sure. So that's why this very first Grandmaster norm, it is psychologically a breakthrough. It was for me. I got the GM norm, the first GM norm, and I knew I'm going to do it. That's it. I instantly knew it. So before that, I was like having my doubts. I was like hoping, but I was not sure. Then I was like 100% positive, and I got it. So I was kind of suggesting to Levy that it might be similar to him. He countered it with an argument of his friend that who got the first GM norm. And after that, it was a silence of many years. Yeah, I mean, all of us were different. There could be many reasons why there was no follow-up. But if you have to ask me to choose what is harder, the norms or the rating, I think the rating is harder. So that's why even in this tournament, even if in this tournament he's not going to get the GM norm, it's still part of the road. If he gets some rating, excellent. Even if he loses some rating, it's experience. Because I'm also, by the way, playing in some tournaments, and from time to time, even if I'm in great shape, I lose rating. It just happens. Some randomness, bad pairing, bad sleep, unlucky at some moments, you lose rating, etc. here and there. So it's all about a long run. It's always about a long run. So it's very difficult to evaluate things after a month. You have to look like at a larger distance, like half a year. You look back how it was half a year before, how it is right now. You're not there yet. So all I see is that Levy was hugely successful in the very beginning, and that's it. Nothing else. We don't know yet. By the way, Queen C7 played by Levy. Okay, it's a move, but the question is what's going to be the follow-up? Maybe he wants to play some Rook D8 and D4. For example, before Rook D8, Queen goes here. Now play D4? But I don't like that this would open up the bishop. Like takes, 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 and knight C4. A white is definitely better here. Strong bishop, knight goes A5 or B6. Weakness on B7. So the question is, what's the follow-up for Levy after Queen C7? Yeah. By the way, Mati is... It's good that you brought up this question. Mati 1111 on YouTube chat says, Arthurs could have delayed the board. We would be all 10 minutes late, and Arthurs would interact with chat in real time. Trust me, we considered all options. Levy, with his current setup, cannot delay his video. His video feed he is providing with us. This is the only option. We delay the stream for 10 minutes. The downside is interacting with the chat with the delay. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do about it. This is the absolute best we can do. Stream Extravaganza is asking, did I and Levy consider making Levy a Dutchman? Meaning Levy playing Dutch defense. We did. We did. We have talked about it. No further comment. Hrvoje Jelenic on YouTube is asking, am I coaching any other chess masters right now except Levy? I have some students, only a couple. At the moment, they are on a summer break. Couple of talented kids, not master level. But the idea is that we are going to resume the training sessions. And I had an idea that I was going to organize new group training sessions, extra to Levy, starting this fall. But I'm not sure I'm going to get there, to be honest. It just, schedule is just killing me. And I thought about doing some group lessons, all kinds of levels, like master level, expert level. I'm not sure I want to do the beginner level, but a bit more advanced stuff. A group of something like 12 people. We are gonna see, you know. This is what I thought I'm gonna do like 2 months ago. Now I'm not so sure. B4, by the way, is played by Livia here. She wants to play queen b3 and play a4. Yeah, now the question is what Levy is going to do after queen c7. Now, if this is just a standalone move, then I don't like it. So that's why I think this queen on d8, at least there was an idea to play bishop g5. Trade out the bishop. Now with the queen on c7, this bishop g5 no longer works. How about, yeah, knight e5 maybe. And there's no bishop f4, because you see now the queen is no longer protecting the bishop, you just win a piece. Just like that. So, you hit the bishop. Bishop f4 now might be a threat, but again, you always have knight f3. I want to have some attacking chances. Can I play knight e4? With the idea to play 5 or 4. Like takes, takes. Queen c2, f5. Not very clear. Like queen b3, hit the pawn. Rook f6. No idea what this is. So knight e5, bishop d2. Now what? Maybe knight g6, but what the knight is doing there? So white goes here. You know, I'm going to tell you exactly the reason why this position is so difficult to understand. I do not see a pawn play for black. Every single move I'm about to suggest, it's maneuvering the pieces, the minor pieces. Okay, rook c8, rook d8, maybe the heavy pieces can join in. But I just don't see. You play knight f4, there's going to be bishop f1. You play 95, 94. Okay, maybe this is how you get a pawn play. So I'm not sure about that. But then again, I start to think about white. Where's white's pawn play? So white is going to play a4, b5. She drops the pawn on c5. Maybe it's c4. But is this actually very good? Because it might activate the knight. Maybe at the right moment, c4 can be met with d4. So this is a very tricky position from both players. But for some reason, I find it to be a bit easier to play for white. So I'm not exactly sure about this entire sequence. Again, yeah, I had a feeling that this was the move. Provoke g4, provoke knight e5, and then play something sharper like knight e7. We're looking at this line like takes, rook c8, queen a6, bishop c5, and have some fun. Yeah, but then again, before the game, we've had a discussion about Levy's playing style. And I thought that she's playing very dynamic chess. Maybe this is influencing Levy's approach. But what I'm a bit afraid, he's a bit passive here. Anthony on YouTube is asking, why are the games so long? It's a classical game. The time control is 90 minutes for the entire game. It's long. But, you know, unfortunately, or maybe actually fortunately, you cannot get the Grandmaster title by playing rapid chess. Okay, even though, you know, I'm going to take it back. Because FIDE invented some sort of arena Grandmaster titles. I have no idea what this is. So supposedly you can play on FIDE's arena. I never even tried there, so I don't know what it looks like. And they're awarding some Grandmaster titles. Like there's even a title, Arena Grandmaster. The Cavatar. But apart from that, there's no titles for playing Blitz or Rapid. You can only get the title by playing in classical tournaments. And this is exactly what Levy's doing. Maybe after he's going to get the Grandmaster title, he is going to focus on Rapid and Blitz. Not play too much classical chess. But classical always has been around. It's very special. It's the real chess. Even though some players have been trying to bury it all the time. I believe even Bobby Fischer, back in 1993, maybe 2, he said, classical chess is really dead. Really dead. I'm quoting Fischer. Well, Semco 30 still years later, we're still there. And now Magnus also is doing the same. Arguably the greatest player in the history of chess. He's like implying that classical chess is boring, everything is studied, etc. Well, I'm not sure I agree. I think there are ways to make it exciting. Depends on the players. You pair two very exciting players against each other, and they're going to make it fun. Yeah, Levy is thinking too long. Yeah, it's queen c7. Yeah, I'm not sure I like it. She should have tried knight e7, bishop g5 for some clarity. And usually I would show some similar examples to Levy in training. And I would say, when you don't know what to do, what can you do? Improve your pieces. Trade the strongest pieces of the opponent. Let's get some clarity. So queen c7 is like a checkmark move. So Levy puts the queen on c7 just because it stands nice and there's some pressure against pawn on c5. But the big question is what to do later. How queen c7 helps Levy's plan? Because for white it's very easy. Queen b3, maybe a4, b5. Maybe queen c2, knight b3, knight e4. I see easy moves for white. Those are actually pretty nice bishops. Another question, another option, anticipate your questions 10 minutes in advance. Now that is giga level. I'm not there yet. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Ravi Parimi on YouTube is asking why Levy doesn't respond to e4 with openings like Spanish, Sicilian, etc. to surprise the opponents. Work in progress. We're gonna get there. Can't do everything at the same time. There is a plan. He's gonna get more openings. He already plays more openings. Do I watch Hikaru's recaps? I do. That's a great question. Sometimes he says some interesting things, but most of the time, there's nothing new. I mean, for me at least. I think also Levy said something similar. I mean, sometimes I think that it will be really cool to hear most often from Hikaru some super GM insights. Like going some meta level, some big concepts, etc. about some positions, because he is one of the best players in the world. And I think it will be very interesting for me and to Levy hear what one of the super GMs has to say about some concepts. But very often he just goes through the games and explains this happens. So, yeah, like I already said, I think every single recap is really great. Extra source of information. I can definitely assure you Levy's watching them. And I'm watching them. Just as I'm watching every single recap of Levy's. And I think if somebody does those recaps the best, it's Levy himself. Because there's a lot of personal emotion attached. Yeah, sometimes maybe I'm also thinking I'm doing those recaps a bit too fast. But I try to explain some deeper concepts, what we were deciding, what we looked at in the opening phase, etc. But again, I mean, if you want to have some deeper insights, you just go to the live stream, obviously. So that's why it's called recap, coach's insights. But I think Hikaru is doing a fantastic thing, you know, covering Levy's games, essentially pulling Yuna reverse, because everybody was used that Levy would recap Hikaru's games. Now Hikaru is recapping Levy's games. So I think it's great. A rook d8 is played by Levy. Just probably intending some d4 ideas. Maybe he wants to play rook c8 next. Playing cat and mouse. I think White is going to play queen c2, knight b3. Like here. Knight b3, knight e4. Makes perfect sense. Very complex position. I'm a bit worried about Levy that he is quite static here. That I don't quite see. Okay, maybe there's an idea to play d4. With the idea to play knight b4. Maybe this is a thing. Queen b3 and knight e5. Although, yeah, this is a weakness. Maybe with the knight on c6, this would be a bit better. So I could try to do that. Maybe knight c6. Knight c4, knight e5. Yeah, the bar hits it. Just take it. There's a fork on b6. Oh, this is terrible. So queen c2 makes sense. d4, knight b4 doesn't work. d4 in general, I don't like it. So try to kill the bishop. But again, the question is, what happens now? How do you continue? Where's the plan? a3, h6. All right. Okay. This is a move that I really like. It seems that Levy has picked up the idea of bishop g5. I like this move. So I think what he's trying to do, he wants to play knight e7 and bishop g5. So maybe this was Levy's idea all along. Put the queen on c7, put the rook on e8, play h6, and then maybe toy with the ideas, remove the knight and play bishop g5. I approve. I think these bishops are a bit annoying, so trading one of them is definitely the way to go. a3 is a bit surprising. I suppose Levy wants to play c4, open up the bishop, but you cannot do it immediately because I suppose d4 is going to be a major problem, which, by the way, is yet another reason why Levy played h6, so that after c4, d4, there's no bishop g5. You see? And the bishop is very active because, for example, imagine this. If instead of h6, Levy would have played something like rook c8, c4, d4, bishop g5, White is going to kill the knight, and this bishop is a monster. These pawns might be rolling forward pretty quick, and the bishop at e7 is pretty sad bishop. So queen c2 is played by Livia. Well, I think knight e7 has got to be the move. Knight e7 and bishop g5. Now, for some reason, I start to like Levy's position. It's probably about balanced, but at least there's a plan. Michael is asking on YouTube, does knight e5 work or it's pointless? I mean, no, it's not pointless, but I just don't see the follow-up after bishop e2. What do you do next? I just don't see. And Levy's always thinking about further than that. Sequence of moves. Does Nixon's know what the raid is? I know. Was there a raid? Who raided Levy? Hikaru. Wow. Wow. Oh, wow. Of 3,049 viewers. Thank you. We just talked about Hikaru. Only good words. Appreciate it. By the way, I think that Levy has got so much support from Hikaru throughout the years. It's amazing, you know. All right, Levy's thinking. While he's thinking, let me select the move. Can I analyze a5, please? Juan Daniel Maldonado is asking on YouTube. Yeah, but what about a5 here? Maybe you were talking about it here? Like a5 here. Actually, it's a pretty interesting idea. Because after b5, the knight goes away, the pawn on c5 becomes loose. And you don't have no time for a3 because the queen on a4 is going to be under attack. So maybe queen b3 takes and takes. That was an interesting idea. I didn't really consider this, but I think the moment is gone. Apparently here, after queen c7 to b4, Levy had the idea to play a5 to unbalance the position. But it's a bit counter-logical. Because white has two bishops. And black is threatening to open up the position. a5, wow. All right, the moment is gone. So what happened in the game? a3 was played, h6, queen c2, and e5. That is a very, very responsible move. Because imagine this. There was a bishop on e6 for black. This would be an ideal position for black. What I'm slightly concerned about for Levy is that if he is going to push e4, d4, etc., the light squares are going to be pretty weak. So it's a nice center. It's actually one of the things that I would like to talk about with Levy, about the control of the center, a bit more advanced level. That whenever you take the center, we had some previous examples, you need bishops to support them. On Twitch, there's a comment that Hikaru said that Levy needs a new opening for black. I agree. I completely agree. We have talked about this. We have talked about this in our training sessions. So there are ideas. It's a work in progress. I cannot really reveal what kind of discussions or what kind of openings we have discussed. But Levy knows that the Caracan alone is going to be pretty difficult. So maybe something more spicy. There's an idea to include. Yes, I fully support it. I'm happy with Levy's time management in this game. Michael is asking on YouTube. It's okay. He could have been playing a bit faster. The position is pretty complex. So I can understand him spending time. Have I ever played Magnus? I have, but only online. Oh, actually, I see Hikaru write a question, an insight in the chat. Maybe people would prefer 1 hour videos, but YouTube viewers like the Modern World one-shot videos. You mean about the recap? I can definitely say that Levy would gain massively from Super GM insights. Because I'm just a Grandmaster. I'm maybe a pretty okay Grandmaster, but I don't possess the Super GM level skills. Some meta concept ideas. But yeah, that's a problem, right? For YouTube, the vast majority of the viewers, they're not going to understand it. Level W is asking on YouTube, why am I always worried? That's my job, to be worried. Yeah, this is quite imbalanced position. Maybe Hikaru here has more experience. I do not. This is the position I'm seeing for the first time. Like, I would have to go back to this position. I don't have any experience here. Right here. So I tried to play e5 some moves earlier, so I was a bit concerned about the pawn on d5 becoming loose. I was concerned about the bishop on f3. So my idea was to trade the darks with bishops on g5. But I suppose what Levy is doing also makes perfect sense. By the way, I like also this move h6, is that it doesn't enable white the idea to play bishop g5, hit on f6 the knight, and target the pawn on d5. So there was multiple ideas behind the move. Knight f1. Yeah, Levy here tries to exploit the weakness on f5. Play knight g3, knight f5, and maybe then at some point rip apart the center. I mean, I'm wondering how Levy could take his game right here. Maybe he should play e4, like e4, bishop e2, get the pieces closer to the queen side, to the king side, my apologies, and start an attack here. But there could be a room for some maneuvering as well, like maybe play bishop f8, knight g3, g6, put the bishop on g7, play e4. Probably you're going to have to play e4 at some point. Play knight e5, control those squares. Pretty complex. I know I'm repeating myself, you know. Clock situation could have been a bit better because Levy's behind the clock 20 minutes. Also, visually looking at this position, I think the rook on d8 should have been on e8. Which makes me wonder, was it a smarter idea to start with rook d8? To follow up with h6, e5, rook e8, bishop f8, g6, bishop g7? Because now, you're probably wondering, what is the rook doing on a8? Not much. It could have been standing on e8. There's a question, is f6, e5 worth pushing? f6, I don't think so, because it would weaken some light square with e5 totally. What's the coach's nationality? I'm a Latvian. So yeah, knight f1, by the way. I already said this. You know, let me tell you this. One of the hardest things in chess, especially at the competitive level, is to feel that moment when you have to play concrete. Like, is this the concrete position? Do I have to play concrete? Like, should I play e4, knight e5, and start a king's-head attack? Or this is the moment when I should be slowly improving the pieces? Is this the moment where I should be playing much more dynamic chess? Or this is the moment where I should maybe refrain from making good decisions? You know, I'm definitely gonna say this. I'm not always so sure myself. Especially when it comes to such unbalanced positions. So, probably if somebody knows this best, it's Magnus Carlsen. That's why he's the best player in the world. He knows precisely when to play concrete. He knows precisely when to slow down, when to maneuver. He knows precisely when to press on the clock, when to play faster, when to play slower, when to slow down, when to increase the speed. Silvio is saying that Hikaru's opening is not good at all, that he should learn something else. Why don't I coach him something else? I even don't know what to say to that. I think there's nothing wrong with the Caracan, but playing it constantly as the only weapon, it has its flaws. I agree. We could argue if it's enough with one Caracan defense to get to the GM title. It's hard, but it's doable. I do believe it's doable. If you don't believe me, what if I would tell you that I got a very high, no, approximately high level, almost GM level with just a Dutch defense? So it's possible. But for some variety, for some unpredictability, for some better choice against certain opponent styles, I agree. Yes. So we've been trying to do a lot of things, but we can't do everything at the same time. All right. So rook d7 is just played by Levy. Yeah, this is an interesting move because I suppose he wants to get the other rook in the game. Play something like rook d8, maybe rook e8. Yeah, you remember, right? I said in this position, the rook in a8 is not doing anything. And I was wondering if this is the moment to be concrete, or this is the moment to improve the position, like bishop f8, g6, bishop g7. You're probably wondering why g6, because I'm a bit afraid about some of the weak and light squares. If you play g6, the pawn on h6 drops, so that's why bishop f8, g6 makes sense, because you protect the pawn on h6. But the rook in a8 is not doing anything. So rook d7, I like this move. Yeah, so the idea is to play something like rook e8 or rook d8 and see what happens. I'm going to go back and again mention this moment. Could it be that rook d8 and rook e8 was more precise? Yeah. Could it be that Levy here had a completely different approach and play a5? Yeah. You could always play better. All right. G3 is... Whoa, G3. G3? I'm not sure about this G3 at all. Just a second. That's such a weird move. Okay, I get it. She wants to play bishop g2 at some point. And maybe e4 have the intermezzo move bishop f4. But isn't she doing this at the expense of the knight on f1? Because if we go back to this position, Levy played knight f1. I thought she wants to play knight g3, knight f5, exploit this weakness. But maybe her concern was the d4 push, trapping the bishop, so that after d4, you can always retreat with the bishop. Now the bishop on f3 is a monster. So, now she played g3. But the problem now with g3 is that the knight is basically a sitting duck on f1, not doing anything. Also, it's a very responsible move because there might be future problems of the light squares around the white king. I'm talking about, probably not immediately, I'm talking about e4. Let's say you play bishop g2, knight e5. How about these weaknesses? But obviously, I do see there's intermezzo move bishop f4, knight e5, whatever, bishop g2, g5. What is this position? Yeah, I'm probably weakening too many light squares. Like, I'm not exactly sure. Is this a good move, or maybe remove the bishop and play knight e3, try to anchor the knight on f5? Levy plays rook d8, not rook e8. So I think he wants to play knight e4, rook d4, and then play e4. I like this. This is looking really good. So let's say Levy up here plays bishop g2. Now this idea might be looking quite a thing. Like, again, the question is this the right moment? Like d4, knight e4, rook d4. And my idea was to play e4 at some point, imprisoning the bishop. But probably the timing could have been better. So let's say bishop g2. Maybe don't rush. But how do you continue then? Maybe bishop f8, g6, bishop g7. Maybe knight e7, knight f5. Kamran Yafar is asking on, by the way, bishop g2 is played. How did we meet with Levy? It was back in 2019. Levy was not yet a big content creator. And I was doing a chess tour in the United States. We just randomly met in Las Vegas. There was the National Open. Levy was playing. I went there with my good friend Igor Kovalenko. And Yeah, we just said hello to each other. And I was coaching his friend Alex at the same time. So we talked about this briefly, and that's it. So after that, I've never met Levy in real time again. I mean, we have some discussions online, sometimes keeping contact before I started to coach him, but apart from that, never seen him again in real life since 2019. Coach, we want a trophy tour. It's you're talking about my trophies behind me. Yeah, those are my trophies. Not so many of them, but I have some. Actually, do you know the funniest thing? The bigger the trophy, the less important tournament. For some reason, I have gigantic cups for some local tournaments. For some of the most important victories, I have this big cups. I don't know why. Why chess players never smile during the game? There was a question on YouTube. But why would you want to smile? Actually, I know a guy, a professional Grandmaster, who is smiling all the time. He is very big on smiles. But I don't know. Why would you smile? Maybe you could counter me. Why not? Why not to smile? You only live once, right? All right. So, yeah, bishop g2 here. Levy is choosing between this d4 move. I don't think this is the right moment. I think he could improve his pieces somehow. e4 doesn't feel quite right. e4, bishop f4, queen c8, knight e3. Oh, wait, actually, there could be g5. But this feels a bit awkward. And how about e4 to bishop f4, knight e5? I'm sure we already looked at something like this. Maybe there's... knight e3? No, knight e3. Yeah, maybe knight e3. g5. Take it. Yeah, that's an ugly hole there. Maybe there's g4, knight f5 something. I'm not sure. Big moment for Levy. So he is behind the clock. Also, this is the type of position that it's a bit more difficult to speed up because it's very complex, it's very concrete, and if you start to play too fast decisions, to make too fast decisions when the time scramble is approaching, there's a chance that your position is going to be to deteriorate. So that's why I'm slightly concerned about Levy. I kind of like his position, but it's very complex. And I'm a bit afraid that since the clock situation is getting lower and lower, and he's approaching the time scramble, Levy might be tempted to clarify the situation, which makes sense, but clarifying is d4. All right, there was also a request to look at d4. Take it. In knight e4. Maybe he takes on d4. Yeah, but I don't like this bishop here. It's very strong. Rook d3, maybe. Knight e2, knight c4, knight a5. Yeah, this is a monster. I don't like this. So what else? What else? Yeah, I think what I would probably do here, I would probably play something like bishop f8, g6, and see what happens. Try not to rush. Try to get some more information out of the opponent. I like g6 in general, but I would be concerned if it's not too slow. So let's say once again bishop f8. How does white continue? Actually, big question. Maybe queen b3, apply some pressure here. With the idea to double the rook somehow, get to the pawn on d5. Could be. So if I play g6, rook d2. Yeah, maybe there's some craziness with knight e4 here. Try to unbalance. There's an exchange sacrifice on d5. How about knight e7 with knight f5? The knight on c6 supposedly is not doing anything. It looks weird. I'm not sure I like it. Yeah, now knight f5, I'm probably just dropping a pawn. Levy has positioned every single piece for the d4 push. That's what I'm not so sure about. So if he plays d4, oh, sorry, d4, c takes on d4. Maybe e takes on d4. Keep the bishop here staring at the knight. Bishop f4. And queen c8. With some ideas like knight e5, knight c3. But I have too much respect for the bishops. This, by the way, could be okay. White cannot easily double the rooks. There's always the g5 idea. But it just looks so scary. I mean, you miss one move and you're done, like h4, bishop h3. Somehow, I'm not sure. But again, I mean, chess is a very concrete game that you can talk about the gut feelings all day, but ultimately at some point you need to make a decision. You need to be concrete. All I'm talking about here is gut feeling here and there. But again, the position is concrete. So maybe you have to play something like knight e5. Ignore bishop h3. And then sacrifice the exchange, which might be actually pretty great for black. Yeah. Okay, bishop f8 played, Levy. I think it's okay move. So basically, he's passing back the ball to the side of the court, back to the opponent. And I'm not sure what he's going to do against queen b3, rook d2, rook d1. Makes perfect sense. Maybe Olivia is going to get greedy and play g4, knight g3, try to get the knight on f5. But this is a very irresponsible move. Weakens so many squares. Can I smile? Glarido is saying on YouTube, you have never seen me showing emotion. Really? I mean, really? I thought today of all days, I'm all about emotions, no? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Yeah, of course. Did I tell you everything about the Vegas? I did not. Abbas Fathdil on YouTube is asking, what will be my plan in this position? My plan in this position would be try to get some clarity. Because, I mean, Levy perfectly is aware of the time usage, of his time management. He knows he's burning a lot of time. So he can do the math himself and calculate how many moves it's going to take him to get to the time scramble. So if he's going to spend on average 5 minutes per move, it's going to take him 5 minutes to play an increment, which is not a good idea. Finally, there's the question, will I meet Levy soon? I kind of mentioned this the other day, is that originally the plan was that Levy would come to Riga, because actually today in Riga concludes Riga Technical University Open, one of the strongest open tournaments, not only in Latvia, but Northern Europe, with about 400, 500 players. And the idea was that Levy would come here. We would train together. I would prep him for the games. We would have some brainstorming sessions, etc. So, and Levy was all for it. But he had some real life commitments. And he could not come. And that's why instead he decided to go to Spilimbergo in Italy. He liked the setting, he loves the country. But I think for some future plans, I think that Levy would definitely love to come here to Riga. Because he already once almost played in the Riga Open. Back in 2000, whichever year it was, I have to check it. But he got sick at the last moment and he couldn't come. Why does Livia look so stressed? She's better right now. I suppose this is her concentration pose. Yeah, she does look quite unhappy, does she now? By the way, those guys, I mean, who are saying that Hikaru said that the Levy is not going to become a GM in lie detector, he did say this before Madrid, right? So, there's that. A lot of people said that Levy is not going to become a GM. And it's also not true that Levy ever since has not won a classical game. I mean, what did he do here in round one? He won the game. Of course, he has won games. And he's going to win more. There's no jinx. Do I keep the score of my games against Levy? What's my lead? Why do you think I'm leading against Levy? You know, we have played before some games online, I believe, on chess.com. I don't know what's the score, But Levy's online rating is about just as mine. So we haven't played for a long time. I remember, once Levy was streaming on Twitch, and I was throwing a pool challenge, Levy accepted it. And then he was ranting on stream. Actually, I think I won those 2 games. But okay, come on. It was like 2 years ago. 2 random blitz games that have no meaning whatsoever. Just for fun. Olivia is in a tank. She's thinking. How do Levy and me select his tournaments to play? This is a good question. So I already answered how did he choose Spilimbergo and why he did not play in Riga. Because of real life commitments, so he could not do it. He wanted to. The New York tournaments, they're obvious choices so that he can stay at home with family, right? It's probably the hardest thing for a chess professional where not everybody plays chess. So I can relate to that. It's very similar for me. But the other tournaments, we have talked about some ideas, nothing really concrete. As far as I know, Levy has plans for October. I'm not going to reveal what they are. He told me about one project that he plans to do. I believe in Europe. But apart from that, I still need to find the time to go through the calendar and suggest him some tournaments. I think, of course, he's going to play in the World Rapid and Blitz in New York. So most likely he's going to get a wild card from FIDE. Makes perfect sense to play when you are at home. All of the New York GM, IM, norm tournaments, if not for norms, then for practice. Of course, he should do it. But I'm pretty sure that he's going to come to Europe more. And he's perfectly aware of the jet lag. I don't know what was the reason why Levy arrived to Italy just a day before the start of the first round. He probably originally thought that he will be able to recover. Now he sees that this was not the case. So I'm pretty sure that next time he will draw the right conclusions. I remember when I was last time traveling to Northern America for a tournament, I arrived like 3 days before the start of the tournament. Masab B86 on Twitch says Levy's clock management has not improved. But can you blame him? The position is very complex. F4. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Now that does not feel right. I mean, I obviously see the question marks, so I have a spoiler, but weakening a king just like that, it just doesn't feel quite the move. Wait a second. Okay, now I think it's pretty obvious that G6 doesn't feel quite right and there's more concrete solutions required here. So how about carrying out e4? I know about what I said about the bishop, but the circumstances have changed. So d4, I suppose you take it because this looks oh so scary. Like, take it and take it. Wow, the bar even supports it. I'm amazed. I was thinking Okay, there's no rook d2 because knight e2 guards it, but it just looks so scary. Maybe queen e5 or... No, I find it very hard to believe that Levy would go here. So normally I would expect c takes on d4. And now knight e4. Bishop d4. And e takes on d4. This is not the same. Because with the pawn on f2, the white king is more safe. Now there's some dark weaknesses. Now the pawn on g3 is weak. So let's say you play the same idea, rook d3. There could be an idea like h5. Play h4, queen f4. Thank you for the 4. So if white plays h4, there's a g4 square. How about g6, h4, bishop h6 ideas? f4 is something I don't think Levy expected. And answering f4 with d4 would tick the box, which is when your opponent is attacking at a flank, you should respond with a counter strike in the center. So it makes perfect sense. But it doesn't mean there could not be other moves as well. So how about you play e4? Which also is a perfectly reasonable move. Because now this bishop is locked. And you're thinking about ideas like h5, g6, knight e7, knight f5. Or maybe just knight e7, knight f5 immediately. And g4 would be a bit crazy. Because now you get to play d4. Now knight e4. Rook d4, rook d4, rook d4. There's some problems for white. At least I think so. So e4 looks pretty good. It does give up the d4 square. But it comes with a move either d4 or knight e7, knight f5. Maybe white could play something like queen f2 to guard the d4 square. And yeah, again, I want to get the knight to f5 to fight for these squares. But is this the right moment? Maybe h5, stopping g4, g6, bishop g7, apply some pressure, improve your pieces, by the way. Maybe with g6, bishop g7, you get to improve the odds of pushing d4. It's a strange move at 4. Yeah, e4 is on the board. I like it. You know, I'm pretty sure that Levy looked at this move d4 for a moment, but it's just a mess. I mean, maybe indeed this f takes and e5 was even working. It's really weird. This is a move. Queen e5 is a move. Bishop f4. Whatever. Queen h5. All right. Rick is asking how many hours a week should one train in Levy's position close to becoming a GM? I already told this story a couple of times. When we did the first lessons, I suggested to Levy that we should work 5 times a week, which probably was insane. But I felt that he needs to work a lot. And then essentially, we agreed on 3 times a week. So that's what we are doing, 3 or sometimes 4. Especially in May and June, we're working quite a bit. Then in summer, we had other plans ourselves, so not all of the... we didn't have so many lessons, but we always stay in touch. Share ideas. I throw to Levy a couple of homeworks. But he works very hard himself. Bishop f2. Wait. What about d4 now? Can I do it? So here Livia played bishop f2 with the idea to play knight e3, whatever, knight e3, knight e5, knight e4, but is this not basically inviting black to play d4? C takes, knight e4, rook d4, maybe it's just balanced. I don't think so. I think actually black is pushing here, like queen d8. Knight e3 maybe. h5, g6. Okay, maybe it's balanced because if this bishop gets out, there might be problems in an endgame. But this move looks very tempting. I like h5. It threatens to play g4, creating targets, and also gives ideas like bishop h6, improving the bishop. So if white plays h4, there's a massive call on g4, and also knight g4, knight f5 becomes a thing. And knight e3, h4, think about knight h5, future ideas. Think about d4, knight e4. I think h5 is very strong. The thing is, I think Levy is quite annoyed. I know already Levy pretty well. I think he's annoyed right now. Even though his position is okay, you get annoyed when you cannot guess your opponent's moves. Every single move for Levy is like a surprise. That's why he keeps spending time. He just cannot guess those moves. I mean, you could have predicted that Levy is going to play f4 and bishop f2. So you spend time expecting something, calculating something, and your opponent plays something else. Actually, it's a funny thing. Since Hikaru rated us and shared some of his insights about what Levy could do, this is how I feel, how I felt before playing against Hikaru in online games. I mean, Hikaru is crushing me. I mean, you don't really want to know the total score. It's appalling. I mean, I can't play against him. He always flags me or just outplays brutally. And the thing, what makes it really difficult for me, I mean, in those games, we played like 50 games or so in the past years. I just cannot guess his moves. So it's just amazing how his mind works. I'm thinking about like first two moves, first or second move. He already finds the fifth move. That's why it's very difficult to get in. I think actually this is how he is wired. He's thinking differently. Maybe he's not going to agree, but I just cannot keep up. That's on a positive note, you know, but it's also annoying because when you are trying to calculate something from your opponent, you try to expect something that predict that your opponent is going to do and then evaluate it. But when your opponent keeps responding with moves that you have not anticipated, it's very difficult. And you burn time. You play positions you have not considered. So that's why for Levy here, I believe he's annoyed. I hope he's going to find move h5. He still has time. But we have talked about in our training sessions about the time management. And I basically suggested him to have some lines. Like have a yellow line, have a red line. Meaning when to start to play faster. Especially when you play a 90-minute game, which sometimes feels like a semi-rapid. When you're approaching the, let's say, 20-minute mark, my recommendation to Levy was, start to play faster. Simpler chess. When you get to something like 3 minutes. Play even faster. Yeah, Levy played d4. And that's what I was afraid of. He missed an opportunity. But at the same time, Levy is trying to clarify the position. I think that this move h5 was simply stronger. Because h4 is a very annoying threat. And d4 is not going to disappear anywhere. You can always play it. It's not like white is going to play bishop d4. You play h4, everything just starts to fall apart. Or maybe even just take it and play h4. You see the queen c7 is hitting the pawn on the 4, not h5, g6, bishop h6. This is a missed opportunity, unfortunately. So Levy decides to clarify the position slightly at the wrong moment. Andre always is asking, do I have any courses myself? I do. You can go to Chessable and check it out. The last course I wrote this year, Leningrad Dutch. I'm a big fan of Leningrad Dutch. All right, let me see. Damian is from Poland, as he writes on Twitch channel, and he still cheers for Levy. Do not tell that to Olivia. How many months of bitter cold a year in Latvia? Fishhead Soup is asking on Twitch. Oh my goodness, you don't want to know. I mean, for me, in Latvia, the weather we have is basically summer and winter. That's it. Nothing else exists. So the summer is starting May to something like September. It's nice and warm. And then starting October until March, April, it's rainy, it's dark, it's snow. I don't like it. I'm totally a summer person. The best thing I once did was 10 years ago, back in December, traveling to Australia. I did a tour in Australia, playing in many tournaments, and I exchanged 4 weeks of winter to plus 30 degrees Celsius in Australia. Best decision ever. All right, I think that here's going to happen a massive trade on d4. Like c takes knight e4, boom, 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 boom. Levy's safe. But the problem is, I'm not sure he can win this. X-Master is asking, have I heard of Grenke Open in Germany? I have played there. Back in 2019, I believe. Before COVID. So, let me see. More questions. Just a second. Just a second. Will Levy ever get coached by Magnus? I highly doubt it, but that would be quite something, you know, to have some insights from the best player in the history of chess. To talk about the meta level. I mean, that's why I think this is what Levy could benefit from Super GMs. Meta thoughts at different dimension or something, bigger concepts. That would be quite fascinating. Speaking about the body language of Levy's, I'm not sure I understand how he feels. He's very concentrated. So my advice, maybe I already said this, my advice before the game, I just said, just chill. Don't think too hard how you're going to win this game. The opportunities, they're going to present themselves. And there you go, F4 was an opportunity. They present themselves. Just play your chess. Bishop E4. Actually, this is a move I discarded even. I thought it's not possible because you're going to take it on E4 and take on C3. That's what I thought. Am I wrong? That's a weird choice. Yeah, maybe I should have explained this, but that's a very strange choice. So knight E4, queen E4, d takes on C3. Now this pawn, ladies and gentlemen, this pawn is officially a monster. I think that Levy here made a mistake. Not maybe a big one, but you cannot really tolerate the pawn on c3 just like that. Rook d7, queen d7 hits the pawn on h3, by the way. Very easy move. Also opens up the d file. Queen d7 is on the board. Levy is taking over the game. I think that here Levy starts to misplay the position. The position was very complex, and she decided to push at the wrong moment. I was suggesting queen b3, maybe rook d2, maybe queen b3, rook a2, rook d2. Okay, that's her problem. But she pushed the 4 at the wrong moment. Levy misses move h5. And after d4, is this a second mistake in a row? Taking on e4, because this is the only pride for white, the Latva bishop, that can target these pawns in the long run. Now she gives it up. And after queen d7, the pawn on h3 is under attack. This is a strong pawn. So I think that there's a fair chance that white's position is going to deteriorate very quickly. So she needs to play rook c1 very quickly to get rid of this pawn, because if Levy will get to play g6, bishop g7, or bishop e7, bishop f6, I think he's going to win the game. All right. I think rook c1 will follow. Maybe a little bit of miss from afar that the pawn on h3 is under attack. Like if you go here, how about a simple queen h3? Rook c3. How about rook d1? Queen g2. How about black doesn't trade the queens and plays something like, I'm not sure, queen a6, queen d7. Visually, black is doing better. g6, knight e4, the king is weak. The black king is safe. This looks very good for Levy Sully. That's what I was saying to Levy before the game. Do not overthink. There will be possibilities. Just play your chess. It's good. You're the better player. I think right now Levy should be pretty confident. Please train Levy not to think so much. Yeah. Easier said than done. By the way, rook c1 is the only move. I think she needs to get rid of this pawn on c3. I think there's also queen d3 here. Queen d3. Take it. Here. Bishop e1. Try to eliminate the pawn. And I think there could be knight e4. So there's a basic fork threatening on e2. So if white plays something like king f2, most likely this pawn is deciding fate of the game. And then you somehow maybe even collect the pawn on a3. There's a check on f3 at some point, push away the king, then take on a3. Feels very close to winning. So queen e3 is also a move. I'm not sure actually which is better. Queen d3, keep the pawn alive. Like takes, takes, takes. Maybe this is looking very tempting because you don't want to part ways of this pawn. And then play g6, bishop g7 very quickly. Maybe knight e3. With rook, oh, there's no rook d1. Takes, takes, and c2. Maybe the idea is to play king f1, king e2 here. So let's say g6. You could have played rook d1. Black wins. Maybe king f1, bishop g7. How is this equal? I don't get it. I totally don't buy this. This is not equal. Maybe there's no way for black to make progress. Knight c2, rook e1, king e2, and brick wall or something. I don't understand. So this is a move. But also queen h3 is a big decision. Queen h3, rook c3, rook d1, queen g2. I mean, bishop e1 just makes no sense. Some knight e4 ideas. I don't know. So queen g2. And now play, let's say, queen d7. Very nice, very easy position. I don't know. I don't know what I would do myself. Because I imagine it's very difficult for Levy to get the pawn on c3. Now, this could be quite something. But he also might not be sure if the pawn on c3 is going to go anywhere. So queen e3 feels like the natural move. But again, the white king is pretty close. Like, look at this. Queen e3 takes, takes. So what does your logic tell you after queen e3 takes, takes? Are you going to promote the pawn? Do you believe it? With the king so close? I mean, even without any calculation, do you believe it? Probably not. But the pawn is very strong. I don't argue. So maybe instead, wow, this is going to be a very tough decision, is to play for domination and keep the queens on the board. And play against the weakened king. Unfortunately, I think the clock situation is going to force Levy to play queen d3 to clarify the position. But I'm going to be officially amazed if Levy's going to play queen h3. That will be a GM decision. Huge moment. Queen h3 doesn't win the game, but black retains pressure. Queen d3 is a very tempting endgame, but the win might not be there. It's a decision you cannot come back from. 40 minutes for Levy. Wow. The body language of Levy says that he hates draws. Yeah, I mean, who likes draws? Okay, there are players who treat draws like the perfect result of chess. I'm not one of them. I don't mind them, but winning is so much sweeter, isn't it? Come on, Levy, play queen h3. That's a huge decision. The longer he thinks, the more chances that he's going to play queen e3. Is there something else? I don't think so. But he needs to make the decision pretty quick. You don't want to get to complex position with just a couple of minutes on the clock. Yeah, I knew it. Yeah, this queen h3 maybe was a bit too much. But okay, I mean, he still keeps the pawn on c3 alive, so it's a very human move. Whatever happens, happens. I'm sure it was a very hard decision for him. Olivia feels she's in trouble. Maybe she hates to move queen d3, but objectively she should be able to hold it. I'm not sure I really buy what the engine is saying here. Not the engine, but the bar, because I don't have the engine. That this is somehow equal. Very hard to believe. Maybe knight e4. Knight c2 perhaps. Oh wait, I'm blundering the fork. I'm not that bad. King f1. Improve the bishop somehow. g6. Knight c2 maybe here. Takes, takes, here. The pawn is not going anywhere. That's a problem. Actually, it can be lost. And Levy has enough time to figure this out. That's why I'm not so sure about Levy's choice. But it's a very human choice. And unfortunately, I think the clock situation influenced his decision to play queen e3 and not queen h3. Had the situation been reversed, Levy had 35 minutes versus Levy has 13, he would have played queen h3. I think so. And Levy is not yet taking the queen. I wonder why. So once again, let's check some lines. Like take it. This is a big mistake. Knight e4, fork is here, c2 looks very bad. She's not going to fall for this. So queen a3, rook d3. How do you get the king closer to the pawn? You play knight e3. This is very logical. I was thinking if Levy can play a5. With the idea that after b5, there's knight e4. That's a fork, that's a threat, that's a threat. Too many threats. So it makes sense. What about knight c2 here? Wow, an engine says white is better. Takes. This is what white is gonna do. Yeah, there's no progress. So queen e3 takes. Knight e3. Knight e4 probably. King f1. Okay, maybe don't trade the knights. Like g6. Knight c2, I suppose, and knight b3. Rook e1. Rook d2. Rook e2. I'm looking at some funny ideas like knight c1. Takes. The king cannot get close, but knight e3 is there. How is white better here? Oh, I suppose because of knight e1. Wow. That is insane. I hope this never happens in the game. And this bishop here cannot do anything. Because the knight on d1 protects the critical squares. Bishop e3, white just collects the pawn. Holy. She didn't take it? Queen e3. Queen e3 comes with the idea to play rook c3. This is what I saw. That's a smart move, actually. I didn't see it. Levy plays c2 very quickly. He did expect this. Takes. Rook c2, rook a3. That's a weakness. The pieces disappear from the board. Rook c2, rook a3 probably is going to happen. Okay. So there's good news. And there might be bad news. So the good news is Levy should not lose this game. I mean, we already kind of knew that. But the bad news is that this position might be pretty difficult to win. Because now white is trying to play b5 and trade those pawns. This looks awfully equal. I don't know, knight a7. It's just an ugly move. Could it be? I mean, can black afford to do this? It doesn't feel right. And b5 is a big threat. Okay, I mean, the worst case that Levy will have to do is allow b5. For example, g6, b5, takes, and save the pawn. Or maybe play... I mean, he has to do... Okay, I'm not sure about this rook a7. Knight e3, knight e5. White is never going to lose this. Ay, 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 ay. I'm afraid this looks like a draw. Yeah, this decision to play queen d3. This was the moment. The big moment to play queen h3. Avoid a queen trade. Play against king. Go back. But, I mean, you cannot blame Levy because queen e3 was a very hidden resource. Not take the queen, but play queen e3. I didn't see this. With the idea to play a rook c3 and collect the pawn. There's no knight e4, the queen is ganking. So he got to play c2, a rook b2, very precise defense. It just looks like a draw. Unfortunately, not great. Okay, maybe he has to try knight a7, but it just looks so risky. And why would black even be better here? Because these weaknesses that white has that the king says, suddenly they don't matter at all. Yeah. All right. How to continue here? How to continue here? What are the tricks? Okay, maybe there's a trick to play rook c3. b5, take, and play knight e8. To keep the pawn alive and to have some pressure. That's the best I can think of. There's no knight e3 because I'm going to collect the pawn. And then think about slowly advancing the king. Okay, by the way, this makes a plan. But can Levy pick it up? He might be a bit annoyed that another draw is in the making. So I think this is the best. Rook c3. Okay, who says that white has to play b5? Maybe there's knight e3, but let's assume white plays b5. Takes, and knight e8. Or maybe actually be really smart about it. Play bishop e7. b5, takes, and now play knight e8. And then play rook c3. And then play king e8, king f8 like this. It's still not a draw, but it's not a lot. What do you think, chat? How Levy's gonna play? The time control is no extra time. No extra time. Unfortunately, in this tournament, it's only 90 minutes. That's it. And extra 30 seconds. I think right now he's contemplating about the possibilities that he should make a draw. He is not happy. I can tell you that. Quite angry at himself, I imagine. Another bump in the road. So, by the way, dear viewers, maybe I immediately jump to the conclusions why Levy has to keep the pawn on b7 alive. If these pawns disappear, 3 pawns versus 3, there's no chance. There's no chance that Levy can win this. Even with an extra pawn on the king side. Like here they played it against an eye in the second round. It's not enough. You need one of those pawns at the queen side. So usually what I will be talking to Levy in our training sessions, forget what's been done in the previous moves. Focus on what's present. Do not think about that you could have played queen h3. I think he already suspects he should have played queen h3. Why did I not play queen h3? That's the hardest part. Forget it. Focus on what's at present. Maybe there already was a draw offer. I'm not really sure. I saw a smile from Levy earlier. Okay, g5. Oh, wow. That's an interesting move. So he wants to activate the bishop with a tempi. And I suppose if you take it, there could be bishop g7, which does what again? Activate the bishop, but I'm not sure what it changes. So takes, and b5. What changes? I don't see what changes. Takes. Maybe there's even some forcing moves like c6. Trade a pawn on g5. Trade up everything. And if you just take it here, b5. Rook b5. And again, there's at least c6. Yeah, but I suppose his idea is that after b5 takes it, rook b5, in some lines, the pawn on h3 is under attack, but is it now? Is it under attack? I'm not sure. Because white is also threatening some things. A 98 is still necessary. I feel that these are the positions we should work quite a bit. The simple positions. The positions after it seems there's not much to do. Sometimes that makes all the difference. How do you perceive such positions? After x on g5 is played. Yeah, it just looks like a draw. Unfortunately. So I think the final chance for Levy was to keep the pawn alive, like be smart, play bishop e7, b5, takes, and play knight e8. And try to get a king here. Maybe get a king on c8 so that the knight can be activated. You get to the pawn on c5 and pray it's not going to be enough. I mean, I'm totally aware it's very slow. But given the circumstances, this is the best I can come up with. Yeah, now I think b5 is pretty obvious. Okay, Levy's still thinking about bishop g7. After bishop g7, maybe there's an idea to provoke white to play rook d2. H takes and rook d7. And actually, white could be the one who is ambitious here. Actually, no, maybe not. Rook b3, rook b4, rook b6. Okay, what is this? Quite tough to calculate this. The king is getting here. This pawn is a passed pawn. Now Levy played h6 on g5. All right. Yeah, b5 is played. What do you do? Rook a7? No, I think Levy is just going to play rook a5. Rook a5, rook b7, bishop c5, and it's going to be a draw. Rook a7, this doesn't feel like black has any ideas here to play for the win. White can get the knight on f5 for d5. Black would activate the king, but white has no weaknesses. Okay, it is what it is. Most likely, this is going to be the third draw in a row for Levy. Not a disaster. A valuable lesson. Couple of important talking points. I think the most important thing here for Levy is not to despair. Remain positive. And try to draw the right conclusions. What could have been done better? I'm not sure how many of you remember the first two tournaments that Levy started. He had a very good start, and it motivated him to produce even better games. Like what happened in Madrid. In Madrid, he won Sosa with black, the top seeded player in the tournament. And then he proceeded to start with 2.5 out of 3 against 3 of the most strongest opponents. And after that, he was just flying. So a good start gave him wings. What happened in New York? He started really rough. He had a couple of bad positions. He could have lost. And still he got 2.5 points out of 3. And after that, he started to play differently. Now here, this tournament, for the first time, Levy has not that great start. That doesn't really provide him the motivation or confidence. But again, it's an important lesson. You can't always start great. You take every game one after another, and you just see what happens. Rook a5 is played, and I think we are going to see massive trades. Draw is not very far. I don't think this game is going to continue for long. Rook b7, bishop c5, bishop c5, rook c5, shake hands. This is my estimation. 2 pawns each. At the king side, rook and knight for both players, there's nothing. That's why do not be surprised that these are going to be the final moves. Olivia cannot afford to be ambitious. She cannot play rook a5 because the pawn on c5 is a weakness. Like knight b3, the king can get closer here. Why would she do that? Just to create problems. This is never going to happen. She's going to play rook b7, absolutely. And she played pretty well the entire game. This f4 move, followed by bishop f2, was a mistake. And had Levy had a better time management, he would have made better choices. I'm afraid the clock situation contributed Levy to clarify the situation at the wrong moment. He missed one move. I think so. He missed queen e3 and that's it. After that's a draw. These players, they're not going to give you a lot of opportunities. Very often it's like a couple of small chances. You don't use them, you can't win the game. That's the card lesson. Draw. Yeah, we can see there was a draw offer. Rook takes b7, draw is agreed. All right, so the game is officially over. Levy has scored the third draw in a row. No need to be unhappy, Levy. You fought well, you got a nice position, had some chances, but at the critical moment, I'm not sure he realized or he could have played a bit better. But the chances were there. It is what it is. And also we have to give big shout out to Livia for playing very solid chess. Good chess, improvised opening. And the game was pretty balanced. Levy had some chances at some point. So let me maybe walk through you some of the most critical moments of the game. So this was a pretty nice prep. Levy sacrificed a pawn to get complications, and here Livia decided to sack it with knight e5, knight c6, and here queen a4. This is my question exclamation mark. The evaluation of the move. I think Livia simply missed that she could not play the plan knight e5 because bishop e2, knight c6. She thought only b takes on c6, but after queen d7. Oh, yeah, sorry, let me disable that. After queen d7, black is just better. So she played h3. Choice number one. Maybe Levy had to play bishop h5. g4, bishop g6, knight e5, and I was suggesting knight e7. With very interesting complications like knight c6, takes, queen c6. This is not forced, just the spirit of the position. So Levy decided not to go there. He decided to go here. Bishop e7, castle, castle. And he made a couple of inaccuracies. Because if he wanted to trade the bishops, maybe it made sense to do it immediately. Like knight e7 and bishop g5. So queen c7 is still okay. But rook f d8 maybe is not very accurate. So he could have played rook d8. Rook e8, h6, and then play e5. Alternatively, there was also the idea to play a5 here, which is something I'm sure he saw, but the position was very complex. He would open the position for those bishops. Very tough to say. So Levy played this, h6, e5, big responsible move. Rook d7, rook d8, kind of threading d4, bishop f8, attempting to improve the position. And this was the moment I was talking to Levy earlier today. There will be moments when your opponent will make a mistake. Be ready to use them. Levy played f4. Now d4 was a possibility. Levy played the correct move e4 with the idea to play d4 later. Here Levy played bishop f2. Miss number one. I think if Levy had played h5, he would have had very decent winning chances. Because white cannot respond with h4. There's knight g4. Maybe white has to play h4. I don't know. It just looks very ugly. and white would be suffering because of those weak implied squares. Now Levy did not pick this up. He played e4, and after bishop e4, another opportunity for Levy, because I think that c takes knight e4, followed by mass trades, most likely was just equal. But okay, you can understand that Levy was concerned about the strong pawn on e4. So bishop e4 was played, and queen d7. Suddenly we got really excited because Levy had the idea of bishop queen h3 or queen d3. The pawn on c3 was a monster. Levy played rook c1, and this was the final moment. It was a very, very tough choice for Levy. And next time he's going to have to find those moves, because queen d3 was the trivial move, but he simply missed queen e3. I think he missed. The point is, the pawn cannot be saved. So here, very accurate rook b2, b5, this is just a draw. Instead, had Levy continued queen h3, rook c3, rook d1, queen g2, and something like queen d7, he would have continued small spot pressure. He has better pieces, maybe play g6, h5, bishop g7, knight e7, knight f5. Maybe these are targets in the long run. Black is simply more active. But unfortunately, what happened is he miscalculated, missed some of the moves of the opponent, and one of the things that contributed to his decision-making to simplify the position was the time management. He did everything he could. The position was very complex, so those small nuances probably cost him the winning chances today. He was never winning. He was never even much better. Again, this is yet another lesson. Tournament continues. So this is round number 4. And after winning round 1, Levy has made 3 draws in a row. Not a tragedy, like I already said. I'm sure he is not happy. But getting the Grandmaster title, the norm in this tournament, is going to be very, very difficult from now, because he's going to get paired against lower rated opponents. He still needs to beat them. He hasn't yet played a single Grandmaster in this tournament. But again, there's more at stake than just a single norm. There's the ELO points as well. So Levy at the moment is losing something like 5 points. Again, not a lot, because in the last couple of tournaments he was gaining 20 points each. So in this -5 out of 4 rounds, definitely nothing tragic. But he needs to find a way to improve his game, definitely. So with every single game, with every single passing day, I think Levy improves, but he lacks this powerful start he had in the past couple of tournaments. Everything is going to be all right. And I think that Levy also really appreciates all of your support. So all of you who are watching, this is the road of the Grandmaster series, of the road to the Grandmaster, because you have to be ready that Levy won't be winning all the games. There will be moments when nothing is going to work, where he will be unable to win. There will be moments when Levy will suffer unexpected losses or heartbreaks like we saw in Madrid. So the trick here is to take the right lessons, stay motivated, keep working, and eventually he will succeed. That being said, I would like to say thanks to all of you for watching. In total, we had, I'm looking now at the numbers, almost 90,000 concurrent viewers on both Levy's Twitch and YouTube channels. I'm humbled to be the host. Earlier today, we were rated by Hikaru Nakamura. Thank you, Hikaru. Really appreciate your recaps. I was hoping that maybe at some point you could post some larger recaps, some meta level ideas for Levy, like Grandmaster level thoughts, but it's amazing what you are doing, and you have my gratitude as well, but of course Levy's as well. And this means a lot. This means a world to Levy. So there's that, and we are going to be back tomorrow. So tomorrow there's going to be the final day of double rounds. Let me check what was the starting time of the round number 5. It's going to start at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, European summertime. Central European summertime, 9:30. So for Americans, it's going to be at midnight. Tomorrow, there's 2 games, 9:30 and then later in the afternoon. So it's going to be another tough day. And after that, 1 game a day. That's it. So it's been a great day. Unfortunately, it's a draw, but still a positive result. So once again, thank you to all of you on Twitch and YouTube, and also my own viewers on my Twitch channel. Thank you for being officially amazing. Some of you comments today were odd. What can I say? So I wish to all of you a great evening wherever you are, and keep coming back for more coverages. Tomorrow morning, also have a look at the recaps. I'm going to post my recap most likely later today on my YouTube channel. Of course, Levy does, and Hikaru probably already has released his recap on his own YouTube channel just as I'm concluding this coverage. So